Hi, I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're watching Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On today's episode of Eating W's, we have our NFL Week 13 recap. But before we jump into those games, just a few quick news things to mention. First of all, the Carolina Panthers released quarterback Baker Mayfield, and then he was quickly picked up on waivers by the Los Angeles Rams. So there is a new quarterback in LA now. Of course, Stafford is hurt, Wolford's hurt. Right now, their quarterback has been, I believe it's Bryce Perkins is his name. So who knows, maybe we'll see Baker starting sooner than later. I doubt this week, considering this only a half a week to learn a whole new playbook, but who knows? Maybe if Perkins is struggling, we'll see Baker this week.
Crazier things have happened. I've seen a quarterback get signed and then start the Monday night game.
Exactly, I remember that. That was crazy. Next up, 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is out for the season with a foot injury. So now the backup there and now starter is 7th round pick Bryce Purdy out of Iowa State.
Brock Purdy.
Or yeah, sorry.
Brock
Had Bryce Perkins in my head still. Brock Purdy from Iowa State. So cool to see someone from Iowa being in there for the Niners.
And he was Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the NFL draft. And he's the first ever Mr. Irrelevant as a quarterback to start a game. Well, will be.
Well, good for him. Luckily, they used that last pick on him. And then Lamar Jackson, Ravens quarterback, is week to week with his injury. He, of course, missed the game last week, a game that we're going to be talking about in a little bit here. But he will probably miss at least this upcoming week. And then after that, it's still kind of up in the air. They're not sure. And then finally, the Miami Dolphins place offensive tackle Austin Jackson on injury reserve and then sign Eric Fisher to take his place, the former Chief and former first overall pick, which is pretty weird because that was way back when. But here he is now in Miami. So jumping into the games, we're going to start on the Sunday slate with the Packers heading to the Bears and winning by a score of 28-19.
Yeah, this was quite a game for the Packers, and nothing like a game against the Bears to get things back on track. You know, it's just the cure-all end all for a team that's struggling. But this is the second time ever that Aaron Rodgers has fallen behind by 13 points to the Bears, and he is 2-0 in those games. So apparently, even when the Bears have leads, they're not safe against Aaron Rodgers. But Rodgers had a pretty good game. The defense had a really good game. That really was the catalyst there to the victory. Like I said, they were down by 13 early in the game and were able to come back with a couple of key interceptions by the defense. And really, we got A.J. Dillon going, not Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon had over 100 total yards, and he was a big key of the offense, being able to score those points. And Christian Watson continued his tear with 2 more touchdowns added, and that's now 8 in 4 weeks.
Which is insane. That guy might be scary. Also, just to add to yours quick, a lead by the Bears is never safe. Rodgers or not, let's be honest. The Bears just cannot figure out how to hold a lead. It is so sad to watch them fall again and again and again the way they do. Like Callan said, though, an amazing game by that Packers defense. The offense took a while to get rolling. Eventually, they got a few touchdowns, but that defense held them in the game the entire time. At the end of the first quarter, Justin Fields had 71 rushing yards and a touchdown. At the end of the game, he had 75 rushing yards and a touchdown. So the whole next 3 quarters, they only allowed 4 rushing yards, which is really impressive considering their track record. And the Packers pick up a win to, I guess, stay in the playoff race.
We went from a 6% chance to an 11% chance.
Oh, really,
so we are still alive.
Really tearing your way up the ladder there. Next up, going from one team to another, we have the Jets who went to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, and the Vikings pick up a win by a score of 27-22. The Vikings did everything they could in that second half to give away this game. They were absolutely just begging Robert Saleh and the Jets to pick up a win. But nevertheless, the defense for the Vikings said, no, we are going to keep this lead and we are going to win this game. We had another game now end on a game-ending interception. That is now Buffalo, New England, and the Jets now. All AFC East teams, ironically, have all ended in a game-winning game-sealing rather interception by the Minnesota defense. So crazy little stat there that I actually just realized. I didn't even realize that till I just said it. But I was extremely happy with the way we played in the first half and horrid with the way we played in the second half. I don't know if the Jets just made really good halftime adjustments or if we got a little cocky at halftime or what happened exactly. But I can't complain too much because it's another win and we are now already have double-digit wins this season, which is crazy.
Yeah, and now you got a chance to seal up the division next week in Detroit.
Yep.
But for this week, it was kind of a surprising game. I saw that the Vikings were up 20-3, and then they kind of let the Jets come back in it and ended up in a dogfight. I'm trying to think who's your running back. Oh my God. Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook had a really good game, and he was able to get that running game going. And Justin Jefferson had another touchdown. That offense is just almost unstoppable when they get going.
Yep, Justin Jefferson under 100 yards. He only had about 75, but he did pick up another touchdown. So even when you stop him on yardage, he's going to find a way into the end zone. You'd love to see it. Next up, we had a tie in the NFC East with the Washington Commanders heading to New York to take on the Giants, and they end at an even split of 20 points apiece. I didn't get to see a ton of this game, but it looked like it was actually a pretty damn entertaining game. You have two quarterbacks in this situation who have had struggling past, but really still have a will to win in both Taylor Heineke and Daniel Jones, so you love to see that. And they both had such a will to win that they took it into overtime, and neither of them wanted to score. They didn't want to make the other guy lose. The Giants come up with they tried a game-winning field goal rather, but came up short on it. Like I said, didn't get to see a ton of it, but I might have to go watch some sort of recap on it because it seemed pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it was quite an entertaining game. The most boring part of it was overtime because neither team was able to really get downfield and even get a chance to score until late in overtime. Where at that point it was such a long field goal, it was out of play. But very entertaining game from start to regulation finish. And then, like I said, the overtime got kind of boring because teams just kept going 3 and out, and the defense has stepped up. But all in all, it was a very entertaining game, and for it to be a tie, it was still pretty entertaining. And these teams will meet up in 2 weeks for a Sunday night game.
Yep, so that really shakes up the NFC playoff picture in that wild card spot. It's going to be interesting to see what those tie does for two teams who are fighting for wild card spots. Now we're going to move on from a boring overtime to an entire boring 4 quarters with the Denver Broncos heading to Baltimore to take on the Ravens, and the Ravens pick up a win by a score of 10-9. Yes, 9 as in 3 field goals and 10 as in a field goal and a touchdown pretty much as time expired for Baltimore. This game was so bad. Lamar Jackson went out early in the second quarter, I want to say, and Tyler Huntley took over for the rest of the game. Russell Wilson continued to play like Russell Wilson always does this season, which is not very good at all. The Broncos lost one of their big 3 receivers in Cortland Sutton. He went out in the third quarter, I believe. So just injuries everywhere, big time injuries everywhere, no scoring anywhere, not even that great of defense, just that bad of offense at the end of the day, to be completely honest. But the Ravens did put together a 90-yard game-winning drive, so at least they ended it on a bang.
Yeah, Tyler Huntley was able to lead them for that drive, and he scored the game-winning touchdown on a QB sneak just a couple yards out. But again, the Broncos were not able to score any points, and that defense was able to hold the Baltimore Ravens to 10, and it just still was not enough. Was just enough to beat the Ravens or to beat the Broncos. But the Broncos, if they had scored 17 points in each game, they'd be like 9-2. If they would just score 17 points in or more in each game. And that's just crazy to think, because when the Russell Wilson came over, everybody thought this was going to become a high-powered offense with the running game and the three-headed monster at receiver. This has been a surprising and disappointing season for the Broncos that continues.
Yeah, that Broncos offense has been a near historic letdown, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of opinions around the NFL. Next up, we have a big AFC matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs heading to Baltimore. Oh, I said it again. The Kansas City Chiefs heading to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. There's the B I was looking for. And the Bengals pick up a win by a score of 27-24, the exact score they won by in last year's AFC Championship game. They not only beat them again, but beat them by the same score.
It was a little bit different way they got there this time. This time the Bengals kind of took control of the game early on and got ahead early. And this is the third time in a 12-month span that the Bengals have beaten the Chiefs.
Yep, and they did it without Jamar Chase. I said last week I predicted the Bengals would win, but I predicted a huge game by Jamar Chase. But he had under 100 yards, and I don't even think he had a touchdown. So they were able to do it by spreading the ball around, one big player being T. Higgins, stepping up just as he always does when Chase is not doing great. Sorry about that quick break. We had some surprise Bulldog visitors entering the room with us. Callan's dogs broke the door down, quite literally. They came flying open and they came in. So next up, we're going to jump to another AFC, this time a divisional matchup in the West with the Los Angeles Chargers heading to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. And the Raiders win by a score of 27-20 behind a monster game from Davante Adams in which he put up 177 yards and 2 touchdowns, both of those touchdowns being about 30-40 yards apiece. So this Raiders team all of a sudden actually has some playoff aspirations. There was one point this season where they looked like almost a Broncos level letdown considering all the drama and controversy they had last year and still making the playoffs. But now you look at them and I want to say they're 5-7 if I'm not mistaken. And they actually have a pretty good chance to make it in a top-heavy AFC. They are more than in that wild card race. A lot of people in that wild card race are just not a lot, rather just one. The Chargers, the team they just beat. So now they get a game on them and a tiebreaker on them. We actually might see Las Vegas in the playoffs, which is crazy considering the way they started the season.
Yeah, they'll probably have to win out, just the same as Green Bay, but very, very good game for them. And it's a good game to get back on track, just like I was talking about for Green Bay, except this wasn't against the Bears. This was against the Chargers, who are still missing their top targets. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Gerald Everett both have all been hurt at some point this season. And that's just really drugged down this whole offense. For the Raiders, they're still the only team to lose to an ESPN analyst. So I'm not going to put too much faith in them. But it was a good game for them and a good win for them. Davante Adams just took over. And it really can make a difference when you have a true top number 1 receiver.
I don't know. I'm all in on the Raiders. Let's go Raiders. Send the prison boys to the playoffs. I love it. So finishing off here, we got the Monday night game in another divisional matchup, this time in the NFC South with the New Orleans Saints heading to Tampa Bay to take on the Bucs. And the Bucs pick up a home win by the score of 17-16.
Yeah, Tom Brady did it again. He was down 16-3 with less than 5 minutes left and was able to get 2 touchdowns in the closing minutes. And pull ahead 17-16. He still got it, I mean, hats off to him. The Saints have had the Buccaneers number all through the regular season. It looked like it was going to be another surefire win for the Saints, but Brady said nope, and he went out there and he performed like vintage Brady and had 2 touchdowns in the clutch moments when it mattered most.
Man, I'm so tired of Brady just remembering how to play football again in the fourth quarter. He plays these garbage games against these garbage teams, but then is able to turn it on in the fourth quarter and pick up a late win. And respect for him. It's impressive that he can do anything at this age, let alone pick up comeback clutch wins. But it's just so annoying that he gets all these praise for beating these garbage teams in the fourth quarter. But I regress.
I believe it was his 44th comeback victory when being behind in the fourth quarter overtime.
Jeez, just absolutely.
I might be wrong on that, but I thought that's what I read on Sunday night.
Absolutely
or
insane.
Monday night.
Well, that was our NFL Week 13 recap. Keep an eye out tomorrow when we'll have our NFL Week 14 predictions. But until then, don't forget
to eat the W.